Good afternoon. First questions we have, what is decision theory? Decision theory is an analytic and systematic approach to the study of decision making. A good decision is one that is based on logic, considers all available data and possible alternatives, and applies the quantitative approach we are about to describe. Decision theory is an analysis of the decision-making process. It seeks to evaluate how choices are made. Second questions we have, what are the 6 steps in decision-making? The 6 steps in decision-making are: first, clearly define the problem at hand. Second, list the possible alternatives. Third, identify the possible outcomes or states of nature. Fourth, list the payoff of each combination of alternative and outcomes. Fifth, select one of the mathematical decision theory models. 6, apply the model and make your decisions. Next questions we have, cite a particular business situation and explain how each is conducted as a decision was processed and decided. The example of decision making and production. As your business expands and demand grows, you will be forced to increase your production capacity. The next step would be to decide how much capacity installation is required to meet demand effectively. And you will also need to identify the right equipment for the purpose and the workforce to run the production processes. Your decision has to be guided by the fact that the ultimate aim is to increase the production sustainability, and so that you have the flexibility of scaling up or down without incurring a high cost. Third questions, we have, what are the types of decision-making environments? The types of decision-making: first, decision-making under certainty. Second, decision-making under uncertainty. Third, decision-making under risk. Follow-up question is, give an example for each. Example of decision-making under certainty is a decision to loan or borrow money can be based on a specified rate of interest. The decision is based on the relative certainty of the amount of money that will be generated or expended by the decision. The example of the decision-making under uncertainty is a magazine vendor must decide how many copies to purchase each day in the face of uncertain demand, knowing that any unsold magazines at the day's end will be worthless. A naive solution would be to take the average number of copies sold each day and purchase that many. Example on the decision-making under risk. A man lost his job and is unable to pay his rent. Because of this, he makes the choice to steal money from the local convenience store. In this situation, the man gets a risk and he knows the outcome is bad. Fourth questions we have, what are the most common criteria when making decisions under certainty? The most common criteria when making decisions under certainty are max criterion, maximin criterion, weighted average, or the criterion of realism, or the Horwitz criterion, and the uses of all the payoffs for each alternative. Or it is called the equally likely or Laplace decision criterion. Next question, explain by citing a business situation and by showing some calculations. The example is, a farmer wants to decide which crop should plant among 3 crops on his 100-acre farm. The payoff from each is dependent on the rainfall during the growing seasons. The farmer has categorized the amount of rainfall, and it was high rainfall, medium rainfall, and low rainfall. His estimated profit for each is given in the table below. Considering the above information, the farmer decided which crop should be planted under the amount of rainfall as high, medium, and low. When the rainfall is high, the farmer decided to plant crop A because crop A's profit is higher than others under the amount of rainfall as high. When the rainfall is medium, the farmer decided to plant crop C because crop C is higher than others under the amount of rainfall as the medium. When the rainfall is low, the farmer decided to plant crop B because crop B profit is 5,000. It is higher than others. So according to the situation, decision maker has complete knowledge about outcome. Therefore, he could be able to take an effective decision with maximum payoff. Fifth question. Define the following terms of EMV. The EMV is the expected value or mean value. Is the long run average value of a decision. The EMV for an alternative is just the sum of possible payoff of the alternative, each weighted by probability of the payoff occurring. AVPI means the expected value of information. Value is the perfect information minus the expected value without perfect information. AVPI is the improvement in EMV that results from having perfect. The EVWPI, the expected value with perfect information, is the expected or average return in the long run if we have perfect information before a decision has to be made. To calculate this value, we choose the best alternative for each of nature and multiply its payoff times the probability of occurrence of that state of nature. The EOL is an alternative approach to maximizing EMV. It's to maximize expected opportunity loss. First, an opportunity loss table is constructed and computed for each alternative by multiplying the opportunity loss by the probability and adding these together. Next, we have EVSI, the expected value of sample information, which is the increase in expected value resulting from sample information. The expected value with sample information is found from the decision tree, and the cost of the sample information is added to this since this was subtracted from all of the payoffs before the EV and SI was calculated. The expected value without sample information is then subtracted from this to find the value of the sample. And this is the example of the problem and the solution. 6 questions. Describe the 5 steps of decision tree analysis. The 5 steps are: define the problem. Second, structure or draw the decision tree. Third, assign probabilities to the states of nature. Fourth, estimate payoffs for each possible combination of alternatives and states of nature. Fifth, solve the problem by computing expected money values for each state of nature node. This is done by working backward, that is, starting the right of the tree and working back to the decision nodes of the left. In drawing the tree, we begin at the left and move to the right. Thus, the tree presents the decision and the outcomes in sequential order. Lines or branches from the squares represent alternatives, and the branches from the circle represent to the state of nature. So, question number 7. What is sensitivity analysis? Sensitive analysis is investigate how our decision might change with different input data. The sensitivity analysis is a financial model that determines how target variables are affected based on changes in other variables known as input variables. What is its importance? Conducting sensitivity analysis provides a number of benefits for decision makers. First, it acts as an in-depth study of all the variables. Because it's more in-depth, the predictions may be far more reliable. It allows decision makers to identify where they can make improvements in the future. 8 questions. We have discussed the types of nodes for the decision tree. There are 3 different types of nodes. First, change nodes, decision nodes, and the end nodes. A change node, represented by a circle, shows the probabilities of certain result. A decision node, represented by a square, shows a decision to be made, and the end node shows the final outcome of a decision path. Last questions we have: define and give the formula of the Bayes theorem. The Bayes theorem is a mathematical formula used to determine the conditional probability of events. Essentially, the Bayes theorem describes the probability of an event based on prior knowledge of the conditions that might be relevant. And this is the formula of the Bayes theorem. And this is my example of the problem and the solution of the Bayes theorem.